Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is Fuad here with Royal LePage directly, and in this video, I'm going to be describing three major things to consider when you are leasing in Toronto. So, as everybody may well be aware of, Toronto is the financial district of Canada. Um, One of the most diverse cities in the world. The aging population by 2048 is expected to increase to approximately 46%. So it's no wonder why so many people are inquisitive about what it really takes to find a place to lease, because with more people, there are going to be more people who want to find a dwelling and place to lease. So number one, first thing that you really need to consider is when you find your dream place to lease, you have to see whether it's being listed by a property manager or by a real estate agent, because essentially those are the two groups of people who would be listing properties. Okay. So just as a bit of an explanation to go further, a property manager usually works for one company, whether it be like Quadrille, and essentially there's one building that they have, and they can manage, of course, several buildings, but they would be the property management firm that's responsible for a particular building, which will have, let's say, a flat to lease. And they fill out the property taxes, they do the expenditures. Their role is, the property manager, he or she, um, would screen tenants as well. And if there's anything required to fix in the flat, they would be the first point of contact to reach. And that's a property manager. They work for a company, and their primary role is to basically find tenants for places to lease, and to do a consultation and to screen them and to ask them of all the pertinent questions and whatnot. And again, like I said, they do work for just one company. Now, a real estate agent, on the other hand, you could come across a property that you like, and it's actually listed on the multiple listing service, the MLS board, the Toronto Real Estate Board in this particular case. So that's with the real estate agent. Now, with the real estate agent, his or her primary duties isn't primarily just focused on leasing like a property manager. So a real estate agent, on the other hand, helps whether it be residential or commercial buyers find places to buy. They help either advertise properties to sell on the multiple listing services, so they help sellers. And by doing so, they do provide their knowledge, their skill, their expertise, their judgment. And as well, they do also help prospective tenants find places to lease, but that's not the primary job, right? I mean, it's just one out of many things that real estate agents do. Now, unlike a property manager, real estate agents, they're being represented by a brokerage, and essentially they have many transactions that they're doing. It's not just for apartment buildings and finding people solely just places to lease, right? They've got buying, selling things they're doing. They could be doing potentially commercial transactions. So that's not their primary role, is just to find leases. So it's a bit different, but both of them can essentially do the same thing, but in the end of the day, and help you find, a place to lease. So that's one of the major things to consider. Now, second thing to consider when you are seeking a place to lease is your documents and the required pertinent information. So with the landlord and tenant board essentially protecting more tenants than it is the landlord, it's no surprise that landlords are becoming increasingly particular as to who they decide to lease. Now, it is something that you should be prepared for, so long as it's not, the reasons don't encompass any prohibited grounds. But things like your income is of utmost importance to consider. So usually, landlords do like to see people who have very stable income, like 3, 4, 5 years, the better. That you've been at your current job, or if you've been self-employed, you've been doing that for a while, and you can prove you've had income year over year. So that's the major thing they consider, and really with the average price of a two-bedroom lease in Toronto being at around $3,000 per month, it's not surprised to ask for somebody who is making at least, double the amount, like 6,000. So, an annual income of like 80,000 to 100 is something, quite common, to ensure that you do have. And then when it comes as well to your credit score, that's also another important factor. So credit score in the leasing market, due to its competitive nature and the number of people making offers on leases, is of utmost importance to landlords. So ensure that you do have a good credit score and that it's up to date and there's no underlying factors hindering your credit score, like an outstanding debt, a student loan that you have to, repay, that's still outstanding. So make sure it is good. Generally, I mean, I can't really say 100%. I'm giving specific figures, but really, when you think about it, your credit score should be around the 740, 750, 60, 80, almost 800 range. It's just the higher, the better. The more likelihood that you would be being accepted in a place to lease. And my major, advice would be, even for those people who are coming new, make sure that you do have a guarantor with you, somebody who can guarantee to make your payments, somebody who's been in the country for a certain number of years, because doing so alone, if you're a newcomer, is extremely difficult in today's rental market. So just something to bear in mind. Now, of course, you would need as well a reference letter. So make sure that you've had a reference letter from your current landlord, or an employment letter as well, and that you do supply your realtor with ID, just so they can take a note of your legal name. Now, a third thing, and as well, an important point that I wanted to convey in this video would be, the required documents, the required forms that you're going to be seeing when you're working, let's say, with a real estate representative. So, due to new legislation, Trusted Real Estate Service Act has introduced what we call an information guide. This information guide is nothing to alarm you as a consumer. In fact, it's something that works well in your favor. It's a guide that really explains to you about the whole buying and selling, a leasing process in Ontario. And it does describe the responsibilities of the realtor, the contract, the remuneration, and how all that works. So that just puts more information in your hand as a consumer. And it does look like that your realtor would be able to essentially share this with you, either in a hard copy form or basically via email, electronic version. And I mean, not to go over this in great detail, because I can leave that for another video. It just describes about the risk of being, they want to know that you want to be represented by a realtor, and that you're aware of the risk of being self-represented, which is another choice you can technically go ahead with, but it does come with some risks, a lot of risks actually. And it describes about multiple representation, and it describes the governing body of real estate agents, which is the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And it does go into that, and it just mentions about confidentiality, how the realtor owes you that, your loyalty, and avoiding conflict of interest, and how he or she would need your consent if he's representing the landlord and yourself as a tenant, aka multiple representation. And it just describes things that agents cannot do. And it lets you know that you have a right to change your mind with multiple representation. And lets you be aware about the components of the tenant representation agreement, such as a designated representative and the services offered, and how remuneration will be paid, essentially. And about the holdover clause, things where commission will still be owing. And at the end, it does require, and it does list the address of the Real Estate Council of Ontario, which is, again, the realtor's governing body. And if you ever wanted to make a complaint with your realtor, it does describe all of that there in that information document. And at the end, the realtor does need an acknowledgement from you that you've read it and understood it. This information guide in and out of itself is not a contract. So again, nothing to be worried about as a consumer. It's just an acknowledgement in the end that you've understood the main points that the guide is intended to bring across to you, and that you're deciding to be represented with a realtor as opposed to going on your own, right? Which is the other alternative that you do have. So that's what that guide does. Now, apart from the information guide, you would see something like the tenant representation agreement. Now, in the tenant representation agreement, essentially, um, as you can see here, you would notice a few components of it. The name of the brokerage, so that's the brokerage that your realtor is representing. And you would see the tenant's name, and then the designated representative would be your realtor's name in here. And you would see when the duration of this agreement for would be all here. So usually they're like 5, 6 months long. That's not a surprise. And you would see the essentially, the type of property. If you were trying to find a place to lease for yourself, would be a single family residential. And of course, all the geographic locations have to be covered here as well. So you would see that as well. Basically, I mean, again, I'm going to leave this for another video. I won't go into detail too much because this can take too long to go, but you would see things such as the commission and the definition of interpretation, which just outlines what a landlord and being self-represented is. Again, everything described in the RICO guide. Here is also the part regarding the commission. This is usually a clause that most people become wary of and concerned of. And basically in the RICO information, basically in this clause, the standard commission for real estate agents regarding leases is usually the half-month rent. Okay, half-month rent plus HST. So most of the times the listing agent is paying the half-month rent. But as you can see sometimes in the wording, and to be truthful, just as for your information, for all you viewers watching, if in the event that the tenant, the listing agent doesn't pay it, technically the wording does say that the tenant would be responsible. Okay. Any even deficiency of amount to the brokerage by listing brokerage or by the landlord. And that if the brokerage is not to be paid any commission by listing brokerage or by the landlord, the tenant will pay the brokerage the full amount of commission indicated above. So technically, the prospective tenant would be responsible to pay the commission, on legal terms, if the landlord and listing agent do choose not to pay it. But as a matter of fact, this rarely ever happens. Again, nothing to alarm you guys as a viewer. So this rarely ever happens. Majority of the times, the listing agent pays it, so it's nothing that you have to be concerned about. And here you would see the holdover clause, and you're essentially getting, your realtor's knowledge, expertise, judgment. You're getting that pretty much for free. You're not really paying anything unless agreed otherwise. But majority of the time it's the listing agent that pays it, and considering all the skill and the judgment that goes on, and the drafting of contract that the realtor do, and as well their negotiating power, and the resources that they have available to them, it's a very good deal, in terms of the consumer, so it's nothing really to be aware of. And then the remaining part of the tenant representation is standard contract clauses, which is not something, again, I'll go into this video, just something I wanted to briefly outline. So those are essentially, the major things to consider when you're leasing. I do hope that, you did find this information useful. If you like this video, please do subscribe. I'll be making hopefully further videos to describe the clauses in greater detail to give you a better understanding of that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to book a Zoom call with me. Again, I thank you guys all for your time. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully you've enjoyed the content of this video. Take care, guys.